We watch the little blue bar.
Okay, Chair, you are live.
Hearing the Archaeological Review Committee, March 28th, 2024.
Okay, Chair.
Roll call vote.
Chair Eck,
Present.
Vice Chair Pierce, Member Bechtel,
Yes.
Member Trees, and Member Wands. Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you.
Chair Eck.
Technical difficulties, so stand down. Lost our reverb. Thank you. First item is approval of agenda. What's in the agenda? Do you know of anything that needs to change in the agenda? No chair. Right. Members?
Approve the agenda.
I'll second. Moved and seconded. Having been informed, we don't have to have a roll call vote for all this stuff anymore. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next is approval of minutes, February 22nd, 2024. Number one. Member Pierce? No comments from me? Zach?
No comments.
Okay, well, a general comment, I understand we're trying to do really general, high-level overview of minutes, but that involves a significant amount of interpretation. And somewhere between what was said and what ended up on paper, we're missing some breaths. Example, page 4 of the minutes, right in the middle, last line of the committee action paragraph. There's a partial sentence that has my name floating at the front of it, followed by a partial sentence consisting of the word new. Somehow those things need to be avoided. Page 7. Last sentence of the matters from the committee paragraph. I know I can't speak clearly, but I know I didn't say reconveying. The context of this suggests that I probably said report production or editing or something to that effect. Reconveying is a complete non sequitur. So, other than that, I think we're all done unless Member Trees has any comments on the minutes.
No. Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the minutes for the meeting of February 22nd with the requested correction.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next is matters from the floor. We have some folks in attendance. Anyone need to raise anything from the floor? Sir.
My name is Doug McDowell. I'm coming to address some concerns at a previous ARC meeting about the Ezekiel on Upper Canyon Road and what's being done to protect it, along with some applications we are making for a client to build a house.
Okay. Do you have any details to
Yeah.
share, materials to share?
Absolutely. He should be fine.
No.
Since it's
Move
just
ahead.
public comments,
Okay.
it's no strings necessary.
Okay, what I understood from Ron Winters, who was at the meeting, and I'm sorry I wasn't able to attend. And you all didn't have plans of the actual construction, but the archaeological report was presented. And I believe at the meeting, the archaeological report was, there was no comment on it. It was approved, but it was brought up, was there anything being done to protect the acequia that exists on this property? And also that perhaps the acequia needed a bigger easement than the 12-foot easement that currently exists. And I think based on those discussions, that it was decided by the committee to postpone the hearing on it. And so it was postponed. And so I'm coming to present, or at least talk about it, and to present some drawings if need be that are backup. And I've talked to the clients at length and about their setbacks from the acequia and from the slope down from the acequia. And we have dimensions showing what those setbacks are. In addition, some of the older slopes analysis and things like that you all may have had in your possession at the time of the meeting were showing 2-track roadways that exist up there that people just drove on the land. And those roadways would not exist in the construction. I think it was a concern of what would happen with the construction if those roadways were there. And those roadways are not even, there are no roadways up near the acequia anymore. All the roadways have been moved to the lower end of each of the 2 lots, which would be the farthest point away from the acequia. So in talking with the owners, even suggested they move it a little further and to please add to the plans the distances certain parts of the development have from the acequia, and they are on the drawings now. And some of the things are really just low 2-foot yard walls, a solar array that's standing on metal pipes and things like that. But our intention is to, during construction, to have metal T-posts and snow fencing along the entire acequia at the downhill side of the berm running up to the acequia, and to keep people off of that area in its entirety during construction. There is one little area behind the studio where there's a little bit of a cut, and that would be all compacted and planted with maximum density or commensurate density of what's there now. But nothing would be disturbed on the fill below the acequia, and the intent is to maintain all those growths of saplings and small trees and weeds and native grasses and those types of things, which is stabilizing, helping to stabilize the hill. So we're aware very clearly that it is an issue, and we intend to, if necessary or required, we will put notes on the site plan saying that these things will be done to protect the acequia during construction, and that the setbacks as shown on the plans will be maintained.
Okay, that's all good information. So in general, it sounds like perhaps armed with that information, contractor could possibly present a case for our consideration.
David, the plan I wanted to talk to you first, those new plans that I just received recently will be, of course, part of the revised report, and along with the commentary from that, the legal corrections would be the ask for, but this additional information would also be in the revised report.
Yes, Chair. So as to today, no motion would be able to be made. And I would imagine that you would want to see the drawings anyway. So just to be clear, we have to provide public notice before we can act on this case. So today we won't be able to do so.
Absolutely. Which is why I was fishing for a general consensus statement that we think that maybe you have enough information to resubmit the application. first step toward getting it actually on the agenda.
Chairman, I think that was the intention, to address it, to give me the opportunity to address it, so that when we did resubmit it, that it seemed like we were heading in the right direction.
Sounds like you are doing some.
Thank you.
Have a comment, go ahead. No, let me. Next item is old business. There's none. So. New business. Case number 2024. 8041. Adam Sullins, applicant to SWCA, requests approval for listing as a historic. San Fe, the city of San Fe's listing approved archaeologists and historic. Have the staff report, Paul, anything to add to that? No change. Is Mr. Sullins either in question? Then you'll have to be sworn.
Going to you.
Yeah.
You swear to the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Adam Sullins. 312 Pacific Avenue, Southwest, Albuquerque. 871.
You have the floor for whatever additional information you want to provide.
Well, I've submitted some documents, and I guess that's all I have for consideration. At this point.
Then, can I ask? Mr. Sullins is on the list currently as an archaeologist.
Chair, that is correct. He's requesting to be listed as a historian. City of Santa Fe.
And this, I'm sorry, this body determines the historians or just the archaeologists?
We have to pass judgment on listing on that list, which is collectively approved archaeologists and historians. That's our job.
I'm sorry, do you address him? Are you asking to be archaeologist / historian or not an archaeologist and only a historian?
Archaeologist / historian. I'm already on for rivers and trails and suburban districts under for archaeology, but I'd like to be added for historian.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Just trying to get a clarification, so thank you for asking the right question. Anything? No. Number one.
That question, right, question was to confirm that it is just us historian. I knew you were already listed for the others. So we've done them the same theology. Based on what I can see. Requirement.
There's more questions.
You're gonna stand down?
Actually, I had the same concern, just to verify that this is not an application to do archaeology, and still understand. This is to do archival research, record historic building, that's
Correct.
very good. Yeah, I'm with member one, it seems, you have the appropriate level of experience, but I can give you a refresher on what the requirement is. What qualifies as historians sometimes.
I guess that was my question too, was because I thought the state did the historian in the history.
He is listed by the state as a historian.
And that's how it meets the national, sorry, speaking of you in third person.
That's
That's how, the requirements for the national or the interiors are met. Right. So does the city have even more stringent requirements than that?
In this case, they're not necessarily more stringent, they're just separate, it's a separate list. When the CPRC passes judgment for the state, it does not immediately imprint on our list. And somewhere here I have the actual text of the requirements, so unless you could put your hands on it.
Sure, for historians, it's all historians in actual direct charge of archival research and analysis of land titles and historic maps shall meet the following minimum qualification. A, hold a master's degree in history or have equivalent professional experience or demonstrate equivalent training, the sufficiency of which is determined by the ARC. And B, demonstrate the ability to carry out archival research.
So, thank you, Paul, and I think the only question here would be, if your degree is not in history as a graduate in the department, whether the historic preservation, is it certificate?
Yes,
It's
yes.
the certificate and the landscape architecture degree are equivalent. Personally, I feel comfortable that they aren't, but that's a matter for community, I guess.
For your landscape architecture degree, you had to chase, deeds, and is that correct or no?
I didn't have to,
Oh,
but
sorry.
I thought it wasn't a requirement. I did take a few classes that I did do that for, but it wasn't a requirement of the degree for my master's projects. But the master's project I chose did include some of that research. You're welcome.
And, in your work now with the SPCA, have you done that sort of title research? A lot of doing.
Yes, I have.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So you have the delightful experience of going to our county records and attempt to discover key information.
Yes, I have. That was quite some time ago. Most of the archival research qualifications, as I've outlined in the document, is map research, that sort of archival research. Although I have searched the records here as well. But, yes, I've had the pleasure.
What's the number?
You feel all right.
If everybody's happy with question and answer, we can have one.
But to do that, one?
I just wanted to make a smart aleck about the sound effect. Right on.
Oh, and Mr. Chair, I move that in case 81, we approve Adam Sullivan for the list as historian.
Moved in second, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Those opposed? Motion carried. Application number 2024-8016. Ron Wenders, agent for Andrew Lyons, architect of Andrew Lyons Design, and Robin Smith, owner, request approval of Andrew for the conference report for the development of 0.22 acres, unit 2, at 717 West Manhattan Avenue in the historic downtown of the reviews. Thank you for the staff report, Paul. Anything?
No, Chair.
Winners is present, need to be sworn in.
Do you swear under the penalty of perjury the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Ron Winters, 109 Calle Paula, Santa Fe, New Mexico, 87505.
Thank you.
Floor is yours, sir.
I just wanted to say, I don't know if he needs to be sworn in, but this is my client, Andrew Lyons, who's the architect for the project.
Unless he's going to speak, you can speak or you.
Okay.
When somebody asks him a question, you're free to not be sworn.
So, a couple of comments, if I may. I guess you probably read in the archival research, my frustration with that said Kennedy office. I tried for a couple of months to get titles and talked to they said, on a couple of occasions. Was in the offices 3 times. And the last one, we got somebody at the counter who said, well, we're understaffed and overworked. And I said, who is it? And I never received anything. So I employed, contacted Tom Murphy. As he said, such a good job. To do the kind of use. Based on the survey, the 50 results and those archival research, it appeared that the backlog was never developed, save for some temporary sheds and a basketball court. In terms of the depth of the trenches and estimates, it had to do with the collegiate that I encountered in both trenches and test units. This was especially true in trench 2, when you encounter it was hard to the back of bucket just scraping the surface without anything being reaching. So if we have a question about the depths, that's why they were what they were. And I think that's about it.
I don't have any questions on this particular one. I can understand that issues with the county, it was a lot easier when you could just wander around in the records rather than have to do the digital stuff, have them do it for you. But so I sympathize with that issue. I guess does the client not have some of that material?
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. In this case, they'll have the current title, but not a
Not
title.
history.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes unfortunate, and they'll have gotten a whole file folder.
Yeah.
We can walk back into it. It wasn't the case in this project.
I had a project up the road, ways from there. Yes, it was quite interesting, finding things that were given to girlfriends and then taken away from girlfriends. And just meets and bounds and the tower on the penitentiary was a mark and something on the river was another one.
Right. Yeah, sometimes especially when lots have been split or subdivided,
Yeah.
trying to trace that, history.
Yeah.
Can be quite difficult. But I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be fun. It's not a hassle.
Those big books, but a lot of times, even when I've had look, when they get signed, like, no,
Yeah.
you can't go back.
Right, right.
Confidently, through the ownership.
Over. Well,
No questions, Ron. I did notice though that you were extra careful in connecting up that you had 2 sterile levels this time. That's pretty simple. That's all good. Thank you.
No comment.
I guess my first question for staff is that is the pagination of these documents reflective of what was submitted, or does it bear the heavy imprint of your print shop and people operating the copy machine?
Gosh, Chair, I think we had an issue with the printing because we did it with color. There was some just a may have been some.
The first thing I wanted to say is turns to table of contents, list of figures, etc. And very quickly ran afoul of the fact that most of this can contents, figures, tables, one or more pages off from what on the actual page contains the information. So, sorry about that, if it wasn't your fault, so if it is, we'll fix it. Okay.
That's.
Something in page five of it is in. Reference to page two. When referring to the sites within a 500 acres project. Completed. With reference to previous research. Do we need to differentiate? First one was research. The second one was page 21, third paragraph. You make reference to the state engineer's hydrologic survey. And the cornfields, et cetera. They got me thinking. And I searched the references cited, and I noticed that Snow 1988 does not appear. Where he would have usefully held forth about Sakias in the general area. And while there are no mapped Osaki alignments currently known, to be in or adjacent to the parcel we were dealing with. It is the case that David Snow said that the Osaki currently ceases to be documented just west of the rail yard, continues in that general direction. When you look at the fields on the hydrologic survey map, you can tell where at least some of the laterals would be. And so that led me to note that the north boundary of your parcel is the boundary of a field, and that is a very unlikely place to see it. Say, not that you would have seen it, but it's often helpful to go poke around the base of the wall and look over the wall to the other side, just in case somebody left something that has a footprint, smell, appearance, etc. Granted, it's not within your parcel, but it's part of the means of defining your parcel. That's the rabbit hole that I went down, just reading that paragraph. So for illustration, if you look at your page, well, it's our page 70, it's your figure 2 that shows the adjacent fields to the north and the south. That parcel that's north. The lower parcel, King's official map, is one of the fields that's on hydrologic survey. It's such a perfect match. I just can't believe it.
Could you, repeat what page you're talking about?
It's page 70 in the document that's presented to us. It's figure 2. The northern Osaki headed west along Manhattan because there are fields on the other side of Manhattan. The other had to get there somewhere too. Also. There's probably a complicated set of minor laterals and whatever. So just all of those things feed into consideration of expectation. That's why I mentioned.
Okay.
That's the only reason. And that's all. Anyone want to craft a motion?
Chair, I move that in case 816, we approve the request for a Gulfport Johnson report on Manhattan Avenue. With those corrections.
Well, some attention to verifying whether corrections need to be made.
I'll just go with requested corrections.
Okay. moved in second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. See you.
Next is case number 2024-8016. Whoops. Read that already. It's 2024-8018. Jonathan Jenkins, agent and Vincent, owner requests archaeological clearance for development at 29-6 Dale Stair Road in suburban archaeological review. Submit the name of the author cited first misspelling. The source of that misspelling is Reggie, two G's, Reggie, two E's.
You swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Jennifer Jenkins, 130 Grant Avenue, Suite 101, 87501.
Thank you.
Good evening, board members, Chair Ed.
Go for it.
Nice
The
to
floor
see
is
you.
yours.
So the subject property is, we have submitted a development plan application for land use for a skilled nursing facility to be constructed on the property. When we were conducting research with respect, because this property was part of a previous annexation, it was part of a previous rezone application, when all of that was done for the Rodeo Business Park, which is to the east, on the other side of the railroad tracks. And so there were two archaeological studies done. One was for all of the Rodeo Business Park, and that was the first study that was done by OAS in 1988. And then subsequently, just this property and the adjacent property to the north before they were subdivided on the west side of the railroad tracks were surveyed again in 1993. So the only findings in so interestingly, through annexation and rezone applications, one would expect clearance permit was issued as part of those processes, but unfortunately we did a ton of research and staff assisted with that as well. We did an IPRA, we did all the things, and nobody could put their hands on the clearance permit, but I don't see those approvals really moving forward without that at the time. But it's just, it was a minute ago. So we have submitted both the previous reports. The findings of the 1993 report were some glass scatter that were documented, but no other findings on the property. So we are here to request a clearance permit for the subject property.
Clarify for everybody, the documents we have before us are the actual reports that lack all supplementary information, documents, what was found in there. At least the version. Location maps.
There is a location map, if I may, Chair Eck, I believe it's figure 1 in the 93 report prepared by Sandra Marshall.
It shows the project area.
And then there's a call out that shows the glass concentration on the west boundary. It's kind of hard to see, but there is a call out that kind of points to the west edge, kind of the southwest edge of the site.
Yes, thank you.
What page is that?
It's on,
It's not paginated, it's figure 1.
it's figure 1, so it's the third page of what I have. I have an excerpt of the report, so I may not, my page may not be the same.
The second report. I understand it's really-
And I'd be happy to share my copy if that's useful.
So we have a location, and yes, we do have a location of the glass. Find it interesting. The second report Thing to refer to the findings of the first report. In fact, it doesn't cite the first report at all. But, cool, this is what we have. Any questions? Okay.
Well, to me, it just seemed incomplete, that I didn't see what I normally see, it's just, this is where we found this is where we found that, this is where we did the trench, this is where we did the pit. I understand that it's old information. But it just, it felt like to me that, that there was no attempt to bring it to the present. That there was, that there was stuff in the eighties or nineties, and then here we are now, with any kind of documentation. Like you gave us the plat, the post plat, but it doesn't show, it just doesn't transfer the information. So that's what I would say is, it's for me to say, okay, we passed, I would feel like I need more information about what's really there. Has anybody walked it recently? You know, it's so incomplete that I didn't feel like I could make it yay or nay on it.
Okay.
Good point, thanks. Number 30.
Yeah, so, I understand that you did the record request through the print.
Yes.
That is a poor way to do it, because as you well know, you got a redacted copy of the report.
No, the IPRA I was referring to related to trying to procure the clearance permit that just based on some anecdotal information we had was our understanding that a clearance permit had been issued at the time.
Mhm.
And that is what but we did receive one of the copies directly from OAS, I believe. That's correct. And I'm not sure what the 93, where did we get that one? Was that through the IPRA?
No.
Oh, so we were okay, got it. So we did not procure these through the IPRA process. We did some other
Okay.
sleuthing, if you will.
Well, thank you for the clarification. Nevertheless, some of the information is wrong. First of all, the first report, the 1988 report, will be live. The NIMCRIS number is not 41431, as we indicated. It's 23714. The number you pulled up was actually, I think, Museum of New Mexico internal number 41.431. That's not the NIMCRIS number.
Oh, okay.
And most importantly, in your copy, which you submitted as part of this thing, you are missing figure 1. The reason I assumed that you were using the actual copy is because your version of it does not include figure 1. If it did, it would be obvious to all members of the committee that there was a site recorded during that first survey. The road segment that goes
Yeah,
right
we
through.
did do the road segment, yeah.
So again, the information you provided, that there was no cultural resource found is incorrect. There was. Now, you can certainly make the argument that it's not significant, that people have looked at it, evaluated it.
It was been documented.
However, that's not what you did. What you did was claim that nothing was found. And then finally, you missed one. So there was a third survey of the rail trail itself, including an alternate route, which went right through this parcel, done in 2002.
Okay,
Same thing, they tried to relocate that road segment from 1988, were unable to, basically said that they couldn't distinguish it from all the other roads.
yeah.
You know, and garbage and food drives. So again, that would have helped your case if you had introduced it, but you didn't.
Because I didn't know about it,
Yeah.
because I'm not an archaeologist and I don't.
I do know that you definitely got a copy of this through the request. I know that because I did the request. I'm the one who did the reductions. And
Okay,
I say it's a terrible way to get records of this time because
yeah, I was
because
not
the
aware.
public record,
of-
we have to redact the information.
Of course. Of course, absolutely.
It is, certainly you can go to the original consultant, which it sounds like you did.
Yeah.
Another way would be to come to ARMS and, as long as you can prove that you are the owner of record of that property, we can get around.
We tried that, it did not, we were not successful in that effort.
Well, you didn't try it with me.
I
which is where
I
you should have
did, I
gone.
didn't know
Yeah.
that that was an option. Nobody directed me to do that, sir, so my apologies.
So in the, well, the easiest way, of course, is to have a consultant do it for you, because that consultant can access information a lot faster and understand it better than you probably can. Don't think it costs much. But barring that, you can, as the owner of the property, come and request records for resources that are on your property, right?
Mhm.
Can't ask for the stuff around.
Sure,
If it's on your property, we understand that you are the steward of the resources, so that you need that information. So in the future, I would definitely recommend coming to ARMS directly rather than trying to do a network request
Okay,
for. It may have been beneficial for permitting purposes, you know,
Okay.
the conversations about that, but for the records themselves, the report, terrible, idea, because it's something full of black lines.
sure, absolutely.
So yeah, I guess to kind of put this in context, in '88, Weissman saw what he thought was probably an alignment of Galisteo Road,
Mhm.
like an old alignment or a bypass. He wasn't sure. He recorded the site as LA 66697, but did recommend it was probably not significant. The second survey, 1992, as Chair Eck pointed out, was probably unaware of the first survey. It's speculation on my part, but probably saw the same ruts in the ground and just didn't think anything of it. He's an archaeologist, why would he care? Right? The 2002 report, which he did not get, also looked for that same site, was LA 66679, and as I mentioned, was unable to relocate it. Didn't say necessarily that it was destroyed as much as it's just probably covered with, you know, 100 other cube tracks coming across the property.
Yeah.
I know how many people walk their dogs back there and
Oh, yes.
also ride or ATV when they shouldn't. So
Yeah,
I totally get why it would be difficult to find, but it would have been better to present the whole history and possibly even looks on site, just to verify that you cannot relocate the street source. And then,
what does that look like to relocate the old rutted road? I'm not familiar with the
well,
process.
it probably would have been better to hire a consultant to go out and look, right? Because these are surveys from 30+ years ago.
Sure.
So if they're on the bubble about whether you can trust the information at all. But it's not unusual to request a new survey under those circumstances. I mean, that's something that this committee, I guess, is about to decide, right?
Sure.
But it might have been wise to do it from the beginning.
Yeah, and the
Because now you've
direction
got this-
we received from staff through all the research was submit the reports that we have and present them to the committee. That was the direction. we received.
Well, again, to wrap up what I was able to glean from the 3 reports. Like I said, in '88, Weissman reported that the possible alignment of Galisteo Road without a great deal of confidence. But even if it was, it's probably not significant, because it's been pretty up or down. Second report just didn't see it. Third report went looking for it and was unable to distinguish it. Said that it might still be here, but even if it is, it's not significant because it's so yet. So that's a more complete literature review in 5 minutes.
Can I ask for clarification on that? What was the area inspected by this most recent survey in that effort to
Yeah, so
identify this resource?
it was for the purpose of the rail trail, right? So it had 4 fairly narrow footprint, but it did go through that.
That's true, so the rail trail's on the east side of the railroad tracks and this property's on the west side of the railroad.
Yes,
tracks.
but there was an alternate
Oh,
proposed
there
at the
was
time
alternate
that
alignment.
went into
Got
the
it.
west side
Got it.
and
got it.
looped right through to their 9697. And that is also the route, more or less, was
Just for everybody's reference, this proposed alternate sort of makes an S curve through the, more or less the middle of the parcel in question.
You can see the cross through that and
The alignment of this road. Just about exactly where the existing buildings on the property north of you are sitting. So it's good reason why I can find it, you're looking at the concrete.
right, yeah. Yeah, that's the other part of it, is that even if there was a road alignment there, at least half of it's probably gone now because it's
There's a
Horizon.
Pacifica.
Pacifica, thank you.
Yes.
So, Yeah, where it leaves us though is with this lingering question of, there was a site recorded there. A couple people have tried to find it, nobody thought much of it or could relocate it, so what do we do now?
In a nutshell. Number one.
I, exact same thing that number Thursday. Pulled up the eligibility of the site, which was determined both sites. The surveys not eligible. So, and I think there is a house or a structure sitting on.
Actually, the last,
So these two sites are not. Or based, it's believed on Michelle and Z's. From the Parsons.
actually for that one. Her official remark was, site is probably not eligible, since
Okay.
it could not be relocated, but she actually checked the box for not returned.
Oh, okay.
So it does not have any determinations yet.
Its current status is not returned.
So my question was, normally at this stage, research would be required if it was anything that the city. Because there's a different ordinance, right?
Yes, correct. Normally, outside of city of Santa Fe, a survey that's, 30 or 40 years old is just not gonna cut it anymore. But
Right.
Santa Fe operates in different rules.
And
Yeah.
that's where I'm running off to, is that if a property has been cleared in Spring State. In this instance, is it, I mean,
But yes, it should be, but well, I don't know that we've established it as the first time.
Right.
She mentioned in her opening remarks, they were able to find a case that
But
demonstrates
shows
that the
that
committee
it was
considered LA
clear.
66697 back in the day
Right.
and made a determination whether it's significant or not,
so.
or whether the parcel could be cleared or not. I don't think we have that. information.
I'm kind of leaning towards that what we have is incorrect. I don't know. That at least something you put together that would make it more understandable, but that's just me. I don't-
All opinions figure into this. Amen.
But
Number
I'm
trees.
not, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I'm not even necessarily saying it has to be resurveyed, but something put together that clearly states and looks at, like, researches what occurred.
Being a new kid on the block, this is only my second meeting. So I have seen all these reports today, which were, significantly more than what we saw at my first meeting. The thing that struck me was that, yeah, these reports are old. And as compared to what everything else that we've seen, they're much more, much newer reports. So that's the only thing that I would suggest is that, as they have said, maybe get something that's a little bit newer and, also being in construction. We often never have the right documents. So
Believe me,
don't
we
take-
tried, it was a needle in a haystack, yeah, so.
I have one more question. So why wasn't an archaeologist engaged in this process?
Well, we weren't instructed, so what we did, I did reach out to I work with a lot of archaeologists, as you know. And so I reached out and I said, can you tell me if this property has been surveyed? And that's kind of my first step. I call somebody, call Cole or call Robin or call, Ron or whoever. Say, can you just look this up for me? Because I do not have access to those records clearly. And so then, and I think Robin helped us with this. And he's like, yeah, I see that there were a couple of surveys. He was able to help us get the P93, but then we reached out directly to OAS to get the 88 report.
No one saw the other one.
And nobody saw the 2002.
And an archaeologist would have, or
Oh,
an
yes.
engaged archaeologist.
So,
Well, yeah, certainly which he had done very carefully. Yeah.
So it was, it was a professional collegial, can you do me a favor and look this up for me?
And
kind
I
of
guess
thing.
that's my question to staff, and is that not necessary that archaeologists are the agents that present to this body? Is that not required?
Sure, remember, back to, in this case, I believe it went to a DRT meeting, and I was archaeologist that was reviewing it when this went through all the personnel that for the planning, zoning, and
Right.
so forth. And when I reviewed it, I had it just pulled up in the map, and I said, this is gonna be archaeological clearance, and she, Jennifer stated, yes, well, we're working on that, and I believe this is what they present. So staff then talked about it and said, well, there's been archaeological reports on this property. They can present that, and we as staff can present that to the ARC for the determination. We can't tell them yes or no, but we can, since there was surveys previously done, we can request that from the applicant and present that to the ARC for review and for your determination of this. If it meets, generally, rule of thumb is 10 years. We would request a new archaeological survey of the neck.
This one was 93, was the last one you had?
Right.
And apparently 2002 was the next one.
Which is still over 10 years old.
Right, so generally, if I,
So you just didn't do it here?
we did because of the the previous archaeological clearances or the archaeological surveys in this. I requested that, man, there
Yeah.
should be an archaeological survey done here because it's over 30 years old.
Yeah.
And, since it's for the applicant, right? If they want to move forward with this project, they have that right. We can't tell them no, we
I see.
can't present their case.
So you don't require an archaeologist to present information to this body,
No,
is my question.
no.
No, okay, thanks.
No, I don't think there is any grounds to require that somebody is asking for, can you previous work happening in our county? But there is still the same expectation of thorough review, and this wasn't. So, I don't know if that means you should consider doing it professionally, or if you just need to keep an eye out for it next time to be more thorough. But yeah, this does fall short of what we normally expect, even for a request just to do clearing things on previous survey.
A clearance document. A form that indicated that somebody said it was okay could not be found. Is there any record of this thing ever having been considered by our predecessors found?
Chirac, staff worked with our city staff to find the ARC approval letter for this project. And we went back into 1888, and we reviewed every document in our database. We couldn't find any pertaining to this person, to this project.
Jennifer, when was this annexed?
It was annexed it was in the 80s. Yeah.
All right,
Not even the more recent 2002, maybe even either. Wonder if that was the bad thing. Should have been. It certainly would have city involvement. Unless we plan to the state because it's also
I mean,
DOT.
they may have gone back because
Yeah.
we didn't know about the 2002, so they may not have looked.
Because it's in
Yeah, I mean, it isn't a DOT right away, although this
And that could be,
alternate route I don't think was, but. So it's possible that we never saw it because it was considered state action
Yeah.
at the time.
it might have gone through SHPO. Yeah.
So, yeah,
a different rabbit hole to
Right.
search.
but the only information we have relating to that report from the state said inconclusive, undetermined, right? So I think at a minimum, probably would have to come back with a better document that makes an argument this site, the significance of the site has been exhausted, it's damaged, it's under repair. It's maybe with some pictures showing the extent of the disturbance might be better.
Perfect segue. But I can see this alignment on Google Earth from 1991 forward. It's the property extreme northeastish corner of your parcel. More or less, north and south. In some photos, it shows up very clearly, so it's significant in its shape, sufficient that it throws quite a shadow when the sun is. When the sun is on, it's hard to see, but I can see it in every area. So I support the opinions of others, but I would strongly recommend that you get a contract. Not the other. Put together complete treatment of who did what when, what was found, and who said that about its eligibility. And at minimum, go out there and inspect this alignment very carefully.
Okay.
But while we're at it, there's the question of access. There's an easement crossing another ownership to get to this parcel. And in order for us to be comfortable with saying, yes, everything's cool, and we recommend the city give a piece of paper that says it's okay. Or avoid use of the C word. The route of access needs to be included in the discussion. Because it's going to be modified, and whatever's there is also at risk. And I know one thing that's in that. Right. It's another old rail line.
The rail line, yeah. Mhm.
It may end up being of sufficiently young date that nobody cares about it after it's all been documented, but it needs to be documented. So there's more work to be done, and I think your best bet is to just hire somebody.
No, it's fine. No, I'm not opposed to
Yeah.
hiring archaeologists. I do it all the time, so it's not a problem.
And they need to include action.
Okay,
Sure. This is how we get there.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, understood.
So with all that in mind. let's check the trees.
Easy question. The thing that you're saying that shows up on Google Earth pictures, is that the road that hasn't been found? Or I guess I'm just, okay, confused.
Because when people looked for it and said they couldn't find it,
Yeah.
you have to know where they looked for it, which is why I was snooping in his paper to see where they looked for it. And where they looked for it is under the footprint of that building, like that's where the trail.
I see. So like you look over here and you don't see it, but it's over there.
And as member here said, there's been umpteen people driving all kinds of crap up and down across that property, four-wheelers, trucks, and God knows what, and tearing them all down.
Yeah.
The fact that you can still see it means it's pretty substantial.
Yeah.
So, or it would have been erased, but by all that too. And it may just be a swale with no associated artifacts and John, here's a document that says that, we recommend whatever, and we all go on the line.
Right.
But right now, we don't have the choice to play with.
Thank you.
The most economical thing then would be to
Try again.
with this.
I think you meant
What needed.
otherwise.
Somebody went back to me.
I certainly can, although the fastest way out would be for the applicant to withdraw request. And we submit.
Could we table it or to come back?
We certainly
with-
can.
with
I mean,
additional
that would be
information?
my motion and.
Yeah,
move that.
I think that seems appropriate, just to table it, pending additional
The
information.
only reason I didn't volunteer to do that is because we usually do it to a date certain, like the next meeting, and I don't want to assume that you'll
Yeah.
be ready by then.
Probably not.
Because we can't table it. We have to postpone to a date certain.
Okay.
So
So when? Where are we now? So it's end of March. What's the last meeting in April?
22nd.
I think we could, I mean, when would I have to turn it in? What about the first meeting in May? I bet we could do that.
May 20th, I believe.
Is there one meeting a month or two?
One.
Oh, it's only one meeting. a month.
Normally.
Okay, why don't we postpone to May? And then I don't see a problem with getting it turned around by then.
Okay.
Yeah, April 9th might be a little push.
And then take this for
Yeah.
your archaeologists.
But I'd like having, kind of.
Before I go on the record, I'm gonna let Paul check his calendar, and make sure it really,
It would be the 23rd.
23rd.
The 23rd of May. Gotcha.
Okay, just to make things official then, in case 8018, I need to take home considerations in case May 23rd.
Moving and seconded, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Motion carried.
Great.
Thank you.
Awesome, thank you all.
Next is case number 2024-8028. SWCA Agent for Public Service Company in New Mexico, PNM, request approval for an ecological monitoring plan for the installation of 3,015 feet of subsurface utility lines at 562 North Guadalupe Street in the historic downtown ecological review district. We have a staff report. Paul, anything that's to add to that?
No change.
Robin? Not here?
Robin's not here, I'm here for.
Adam will speak, he's already sworn in, you're still sworn in, so. Anything you need to say?
Well, the title pretty much explains what P and M is proposing to do, installing some underground electrical lines, some utility pole, transformer pads. We're gonna be installing some pole boxes and splice bits. Do the work. So, and it's my understanding that we submitted a copy of the report. Assume that you all have looked at it. We have noticed some problems with it since then. Beginning right on the cover, it says prepared for the Georgia O'Keeffe Museum, which is incorrect. It's supposed to be prepared for PNM, so that's one thing that we've noticed since then. Another that we have noticed is page 1, the end of paragraph 1, it says figure 3, comma, should say figures 3 through 6. Let's see here. We neglected to put in a soil section. So we have. You guys want to pass those around? There's some beautiful soils information there for you. Page 27, we misspelled the word soldiers towards the end of the page. Middle of the paragraph, under Santa Fe National Cemetery. And in your introduction, I heard you say that it's in the downtown historic Santa Fe district, and I believe in here that we said it was in the rivers and trails.
And I think you're right. I think, that more than one person was guilty of a boilerplate error.
Absolutely. Is it true that it's in the downtown? No?
It's out there in.
Gotcha. So that's one thing we won't have to fix.
Good catch. That all went right over. Okay. If that is all, we'll hear from members. Member Becker.
I didn't have any comments on this one.
Member Pierce.
That error on the title page is in part of the vote. But otherwise, I think the plan checks the whole box.
Okay. Number 1.
I didn't have any comment. That earlier. That's.
Yeah, member trees. Okay. Just one thing. My current favorite reference, the hydrological survey. And I immediately looked at your reference at cited and saw that you cited snow. I thought, great. And I looked where you cited snow and I said, oh, darn. Because you cite snow for some other aspect of things instead of for something that's and directly relevant. The hydrological survey and SNO's map, even though SNO does not talk the red line about it, shows ditch 16 entering the project area, crossing the easternmost alignments at the south-ish edge of the park.
Which 16, I'm sorry, which gave us no.
1988, which is reflecting the situation.
Okay. Ditch 16.
Right. It's very hard to see on both the hydrological survey and in SNO's map because it's a dinky little line, but they're both labeled ditch 16.
Okay.
I looked at my magnifying glass. And in terms of modern points of reference, it seems to enter the parcel within which you're operating somewhat to the west of the bank building. And I'm assuming that the east end of your lines terminate also mails that bank building. It looks like it on the map. So
One
there's a
is-
chance that the Osage will be crossing.
Okay.
And not that you'll ever see it, because everybody who's been out there said, geez, it's all chewed up and fill and, but just be aware, it might be there.
Gotcha.
That's what it's worth saying.
Okay.
That's all.
Great.
For a motion? Mr. Chair, I move in case 8028, request for approval for monitoring plan for installation of 3,015 feet of utility line with 552 North Lee Street. That we approve the case with the requested corrections to the text brought forward by both the applicant and correct.
One move down, seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. And by the way, they've all been unanimous. I'll try to remember to put the adjective or the adverb in there from this point forward. Next. Thank you. You're welcome. Case number 2024-8031. Sierra Right-of-Way Services, Agent for Public Service Company of New Mexico, PNM, requests approval for an archaeological monitoring report for the installation of 866 feet of subsurface electrical lines at 445 St. Michael Drive in the suburban archaeological district. Thank you for the staff report, Paul. Anything to add? No, Chair. Thank you. Sierra Right-of-Way.
You can unmute. Heather, there. Oops.
Can we be- Trisha. There you go.
Okay. Trude, go ahead. Trude?
Hi, this is Trisha Ruth from Tierra Right.
Can you hear?
Can you hear me?
Can you hear the volume up on our speaker?
Hello, can you hear me now?
No, we can't hear you.
Hmm.
Try now.
Can you hear me now?
Try now.
Can you hear
No.
me?
I can call her. Or
Should be away, just.
yes. Yes.
Maybe I-
Tricia?
Yes. Can you hear me? Hello?
Tricia?
Can you hear me now?
She's talking, but nothing's coming in.
Can you hear me now?
We still can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Just call her and then she can talk via phone.
Tricia, can you call my cell phone?
Um.
She can hear. They can hear us, but we can't hear them.
Probably because your volume is off on the computer, but then it has feedback.
It automatically goes to. Yeah, it's on Nextgo.
And if I take it off mute, we get feedback.
That sound delay would have been considered awesome for a sixties band.
Okay, Trisha?
Yes.
Wait. Oh, yeah.
Do you have a number for her? Let's see, let me see if I can reach her.
You can call to line. I am unavailable.
Let's see.
Chat was stupid at the time.
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID followed by pound. You have not.
You gonna put that out in the world?
That's what I was just thinking. Yeah, 470, it's work phone.
Okay.
5281.
Enter your participant ID followed by pound. Otherwise, just press pound to continue. Please enter the meeting password followed by pound. You have not entered any numbers.
Well, this is a new one.
Do you think she's not looking at her chat? Just show we sent a chat to you with my number, and if you could just call.
Yeah.
Trisha?
Oh, here we go.
Yes.
I should be calling you.
Hello, Tricia?
Yes.
Okay, you're on speaker.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. I don't know what the problem is.
We've got gremlins here. You'll need to be sworn in, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Trisha Ruth, 1821 Chaparro Street, Las Cruces, New Mexico, 88001.
Thank you.
Tricia, you have the floor if you need to tell us anything in addition to what's already been submitted.
I don't think so. I've submitted my monitoring report for Tierra right of way, and let me know what your comments are.
All right, thank you. We'll have the members speak to that immediately. Number 3.
I don't have any comment.
No comment. Nothing on.
I don't have any comments. I don't think.
For the president, number 1 says no comments. Member Pierce. Okay. The only comment I have is about your comments. So how I typically review these cases is, the PDF. And I just go through and highlight something and open a pop-up note. But when I went to open the comments to this, I realized I had all of her comments at all here. So I can't find mine. But there was nothing substantial, so just in the future, though, if it is possible to get a PDF copy without your comments included, it would be much cleaner for us.
Yes, yes, certainly, in the future.
Right. Yes, Tricia, we don't need to see your laundry. You just give us the finished product. Member Bechtel.
These in appendix C, the lists are blank. And just, I don't know what all this, like sample types, vertical context, feature type. I'm not understanding what all that is.
Let me feel that, Tricia. We have presented in our packet with your report and your plan, blended together, almost seamlessly. And so what Member Bechtel is referring to is appendix C of your plan, which is understandably blank because these are the forms you would have used had you needed to do so.
Mm-hmm.
So nothing was found, so therefore nothing is here.
Bingo.
Okay, thank you. That's what I assumed, but. All I had.
And so I want to thank you for your profile. You're clear, easy to read, make perfect sense. And I appreciate it. And that is all. We can have a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve case 8031, Tierra right of way.
Second.
Moved and second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Tricia. You can go back to your normal life now.
Thank you all.
One last week, we're pretty on.
Yeah, just for the exclamation point. Okay, next is case number 20248019, Paleo West LLC, aka Chronicle Heritage, agent for Public Service Company of New Mexico, PNM, requests approval for an archaeological monitoring report for the installation of 21,101 feet of subsurface electrical lines for the Calle Cacique Loop project in the Suburban Archaeological Review District. Thank you for your staff report, Paul. Anything to add to that?
No, Chairman.
All right. Heather Seltzer Rogers, we see you on screen. Once
Can you hear me?
microphone enabled, we'll need to swear you in.
Okay, can you hear me?
Go ahead, Heather.
I'm talking. Can you hear me?
The same issue. It's something.
Speaker on your computer, just do Samsung HDR is right. Mute.
Heather, can you please speak?
Can you hear me? Hello?
No, I can't hear you.
Hi, this is Heather.
Heather, we got you.
Have her turn mute or turn her speakers off.
I muted mine, yeah.
Click on this. Oh, no, you need that on.
We think it's fixed. And hearing no echo. No, there it is.
She needs to turn off the sound on her computer. You should be able to hear us through the phone.
And you choose.
I did that. Should be okay.
Okay,
Great, thank you.
you will need to be sworn in, so you are not in any way in a position to determine that no damage happened. You only can observe whether or not you have evidence of it having happened. And then corollary to that, you as a contractor are not in a position to determine anything. You can report and recommend, but you can't determine. This sounds emphatically definitive that there was no damage, and I'm not buying it. So, just as a point of clarification. I note that on page 51, and for Member Pierce's benefit, the page numbers are itty bitty little things down at the corner of the page, and they are all numbered. Page 51, figure 7.2. The location of LA 204160 is presented on this map. Which leads me to wonder why maps later that might be useful have been redacted or not included. For instance, there's no map that I could find attached to the site form that shows where it's located. That would be standard. And then the maps showing the location of previously reported sites and surveys, which are supposedly in an appendix, appear here as having been redacted. We did happen to have those things in the monitoring plan, which happened to have been attached, but you've got to put all of that stuff in the report you submit. Everything, site form, site map, everything. It's got to all be there. I don't know if you heard the discussion earlier about 1988, 1993 reports that came in without any documentation. That's why it's a problem. We've got to have it all.
Let's see.
So,
I apologize for that. I was told by a former boss that you were not supposed to put any site locations in any of these documents, so I redact them. But I did attach them separately, so Paul should have included that in the packet.
Sharak, this file was so large, we had to load it up into our system in a certain way. So when I created the packet itself, everything that we had reduced file size from all the files from both the projects that Heather had submitted into this, all that information should be here. If it's not in here, then I can get that information to you because
it's here. Everybody just relax. I'm just trying to articulate the fact that what we got as presented in my copy, maybe not in somebody else's copy, is incomplete. And so if it's complete somewhere, we all need to know that. If it's not complete anywhere, we all need to know that. And then there's the wrinkle of somebody else did this, not staff. It's somebody in the mailroom who printed it out and collated it, and here it is. And I'm not certain that I have everything. So I apologize if it's here, Heather, but it's not here in what I'm looking at. So
just for future reference, is it okay to just include everything then and not redact stuff? Is that, I thought since it's like a public document, you weren't allowed to put site locations in it.
this report is coming to a city committee whose duty is to review said reports, and we cannot do so unless they are complete. They must be complete. We do not share these documents with the public. If someone asks, we redact because we have to. But we need the information because without it, we cannot reach a conclusion. So I pointed out the figure on page 51 because it's germane to that very thing. It shows where the site is. And if the object was to not show where the site is, figure 7.2 shouldn't be there.
Right, but I figured since this site's under asphalt and there's no way to get to it, I figured that one doesn't quite matter, but I take your point.
Yeah, oh, it matters. It always matters. And so the report as submitted, it can have the site location on that figure. It makes perfect sense for me, for it to be there. What didn't make sense was to see the appendices with redacted maps that had important information for the consideration of this committee. At least in my copy, the appendix that presents that information is very clearly marked redacted, redacted, redacted. And it can't be, they have to be there.
Okay, and I had done that for previous reports and you guys hadn't called that out yet, so I wasn't sure. I was just acting on what I thought was the correct way, but.
Yeah. And
The report that I always upload to NIMCRIS always has everything in there. And again, I did attach everything separately. It's just not in this report, I guess, in the packet that you were provided.
yeah, so life is complicated and I'm sorry, and I thank you for all your efforts and I totally trust you putting everything in NIMCRIS. It's just that in order for it to get somehow marked as officially accepted, approved, and whatever, vetted in NIMCRIS, we need to see it first. So I hate, pardon, members theirs, but I hate the system that requires the upload of a whole bunch of stuff before everybody's sure that they have all the stuff that they need to have, or whether they need to have more stuff. And then somebody else has to review partial stuff to figure out what else needs to be there. And then it gets changed by uploading again. And life is unnecessarily complicated.
Can I share my screen right now so I can show you the figures? Would that help you?
No, I don't need to see them because I found them elsewhere.
Okay.
I'm just pointing out to you that the thing submitted arrived here by one way or another, by hook and crook, in a manner other than as an acceptable document. And other members are showing me that they have the site forms. I know where the site forms are. They're just not where they're supposed to be. And I'm sorry, it's not your fault necessarily, because it may have gotten all discombobulated in the reproduction. So let's end that discussion. Let's just agree that we had problems with receiving all the report pieces. And I mean, keep going. Page 65. Fourth paragraph. During the boring phase, the construction crew created numerous small boreholes, yada, yada. In total, the construction crew excavated 26 pits and 92 trenches. Is the difference in the number of trenches that you present profiles for and 92, which is the total, representative of some trenches that were done when you weren't there?
All the trenches that were dug should be the ones that were monitored. The only things are the pits that were open when I got there.
So all the bore pits that had been placed prior to the presence of a monitor were still open?
No, I'm saying there's no way to know what was done before I got there. There were two pits that were open that I documented. That's all I could see. Everything else would have already been backfilled if they had dug pits or whatnot.
Okay. So in the copy I got, and again, this is not fair perhaps, but the depictions of trenches ends with number 79. If there are 92 trenches, where are the others?
Oh, I get what you're saying. Okay, the number differs because of the trenches being named with letters. And then, so it's trench 81A or whatever, 18A, 18B. So I counted those individually and that's why there's 92.
It's like 34A, 34B.
And I see some profiles labeled A and B. What I do not see, for instance, is a profile for trench number 92.
Well, everything was profiled. There is no trench. So the last number it goes up to is trench 79. But I'm saying because there's trench 78A, trench 78B, or 77A, those all are individual trenches. They're all profiled separately. So that way say equal 92.
Bingo, thank you. That clears things up, because I was sitting here counting pages and trying like crazy to make the numbers match, and I couldn't do it. So thank you for the clarification. We've already talked about the appendices. Appendix D, the profile for trench 31. I understand you profiled the other end of the trench from where the site was found. Would it be fair to draw a schematic profile of the end of the trench where the site was found? So that we could see as much as can be seen without sending somebody down into a 1.75 meter deep trench that's unsafe because of unstable soils, etc. The photographs are great, but a line drawing would certainly help, or maybe annotation on a photograph, some means of depicting the continuity or lack thereof of the stratigraphy seen at the other end of the trench over to where the site is. I can't find where the radiocarbon date is mentioned, and I don't recall whether the species of wood was identified in the course of doing the radiocarbon analysis, but it would be nice to know what that species was if it's not in here. And then corollary to that, it would be nice if there was another appendix that presented the full results of the radiocarbon analysis as received from the company that did it for you. Because sometimes they hide that little detail of what it was somewhere in their report, and it's useful information, because finding a site at this depth in that location is quite significant. And without indulging in hyperbole, wow, I would not have expected that. So we need to understand the soils a little better than we do. And as others have said, we appreciate the very nice rendering of stratigraphy everywhere that you were able to do so. It's very good information and well done. The photos, the profiles, thank you. They're wonderful. And that is all. And again, I apologize if I stirred up hornet's nests that are not of your doing. Member Lyons has an additional comment.
Sorry, that's where I got confused. So the trench where you found feature one at 1.75, but then you continued to excavate it to 2.75. Is that? But only half the trench?
Yeah, it was only found in one little spot and it was an unsafe location. So the monitor out there couldn't get in to really look at it. So all the charcoal we collected were from the site, from the back dirt.
Yeah, but sorry. The way I had originally, this is where, when I mentioned that it goes to 2.75 meters, in your feature and stratigraphy. Says feature one is a thermal feature which was uncovered during installation of an electrical conduit at 1.75 meters beneath ground surface. And then the next sentence says the trench was excavated to approximately 2.75 meters in order to locate the conduit. And did you just leave that little portion in the wall at 1.75 and then the rest of, because I was trying to figure this out when I read it, I just got lost in the.
I share your confusion. Can
Yes.
I try to synopsize? It would be useful to know from one end of the trench to the other, what the elevation of the bottom of said trench is. That's step one. Step two is, did you find the feature? and then punch that part of the trench down to 2.75 meters? Or did you punch it to 2.75 meters and then notice that the feature was at 1.75 meters? The sequence of events is important.
I'll have to check the notes. I think what it is maybe the other end of the trench went deeper. I know they stopped once they hit the feature and they didn't go any further below it, so.
Right.
And
But then another area, also on page 77 says with at least 2.75 meters of deposition at the site and potentially only a small portion of the site disturbed. That's why I was trying to figure out if you stopped at that depth or if you.
yeah, I think they hit the feature with a bar, so it wasn't directly like unearthed. It was just hit. And again, not safe to enter, so.
Right, no, I get the OSHA regulations and I wouldn't wanna be in a. In fact, I've been in excavation units that went down 2 meters, so. And we had them cave in.
Yeah.
Two of them. So no, I would, mainly what I was trying to figure out is if the feature's at 1.75. Then you went down another meter in that trench.
The same spot.
Or a
but
different
just-
spot.
But just left what you could see of the feature, but then potentially went through, and also, why was the conduit running so deep? That's pretty deep.
Yeah, you may not be able to hear this.
I couldn't hear that, I'm
The
sorry.
question had to do with why was it necessary to put a conduit at 2.75 meters when everything else here seems to be pretty shallow?
I think it was because of the culvert that was there and the boring crew put the conduit so far below it, they were having trouble finding it to connect it.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Thank you. That
Thank you.
explains it. Because when you bore a hole, you don't ever really know where it ends up until you find it.
Thank you.
Very good, very good. So a schematic of that entire trench would make clear the spatial relationships of the various depths that you refer to and would put this into context. The photographs are great, but they're of small parts of the trench. And to clear up this depth question, a depiction of the entirety of the trench, and it's can be schematic. You don't need to open it up and go profile it, just to convey the information visually. I have nothing more. If members don't have anything else, we can craft a motion.
Be happy to, as soon as I figure out what that motion is. What are we asking for here? Are we asking for a revised report? Or,
Well, I'm
Are we
suggesting
accepting-
that they want to revise the report. We can approve or not based on what we've got, if the members feel happy about that. It doesn't matter to me one way or the other. But the world, specifically the archaeological world, needs to know the answers to these questions. And one way or another, the thing needs to be revised. And they can upload a whole new set of stuff to ARMS if it needs to be that way.
so I could, for instance, make a motion to conditionally approve this case, subject to a revised copy being submitted to the city of Santa Fe. Can I make a motion to that effect? Please.
All right, so moved,
Second.
moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously, and thank you, Heather. You're not done, because you have to stay for the next
Yeah.
one. Case number
2024 8025. Haley West LLC, aka Chronicle Heritage, agent for Public Service Company in New Mexico, PNM. Request approval for an archaeological monitoring report for the installation of 7,338 feet of subsurface electrical lines for the Camino Lejo Underground Electrical Line Project in the Suburban Archaeological Review District. Thank you for the staff report, Paul. Anything to add? No, Chair. Thank you. Okay, Heather, do we need to know anything else about this before we dive into it?
Nope, I think I redacted the same images, but otherwise.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. Member Trees.
Once again, I really appreciate the thoroughness of the report. Speaking as a contractor, not an archaeologist, and I'll, make that distinction. One of the things I had a question about in the report, and I think it's page 17. It said you were talking about the general location and things that were sites that were in the neighborhood. It said that Pindi Pueblo, and I will say right off the bat, I have no idea where this is, but you described it as being near Agua Fria Village and then say it's a half a mile from the project area. And I don't know that seemed a little close.
Yeah.
I think maybe boilerplate.
Yeah.
Good catch, because it's quite some distance away.
Yeah. That was all I had. Once again, I just like pictures, and I've driven by that daily several times through the whole entire project because I was just driving by it consistently. So I know exactly where it is, and I know that everything was done very carefully, and the project from the construction standpoint was done very consciously. And I'm assuming that somebody was out there from your archaeological company, monitoring / spotting for all of that time. That's all I had.
Thank you, Tom. Number one.
Yeah. Oh, I know, I have questions about, and this is not, comments, but I was looking at the photos of the features on 101-161.
Page.
Sorry, page 62. And, I was wondering, it's hard to tell by photos, but, some of these are described as rock alignments and stuff. Was there any possibility that any of those could be, cobble grid gardens?
Yes.
Sorry, can you repeat the question? I couldn't hear you.
When you were assessing the site, did you take into account that, was there any possibility that any of those could have been cobble grid gardens? Because their alignments, they're single level. Yeah, I can't tell by
They're
photos.
really on the surface and they look really fairly recent.
Fair enough, but so do cobble
Yes.
grid gardens look fairly
Yeah.
recent because they're exposed on the surface, so. Fair question, was that something that crossed your mind
when assessing the site?
Yes. But I, again, just assumed that I thought from what they looked like that they were historical, just alignments of sorts for erosion control.
Which is another fair interpretation, because there's a lot of that going on in the area.
Yes, sir. I just thought of it, but given what artifacts you are now seeing that weren't seen previously. That kind of puts a different potential for interpretation. I don't believe Post found any of those when he surveyed the site. Especially if you look at like your overview of on page 59, I think that was the one that really had me kind of a flat area, but it could also be from construction and things got dumped out, and when it was the lab, things certainly got dumped out back there, so that could also be why those artifacts are there, so I was wondering.
Yeah, there's a lot of background noise all over that campus.
Yeah, there is. I think that was my big.
We can come back. Member Pierce?
Apart from what member Juan's mentioned, I just have one sort of issue, one difficulty. And I don't know if this is only on the PDF copy. I haven't looked at my colleague's paper copy, but you use a different font for like the footer with the page number and all of the image captions, you know, the figure captions. And in my copy, my PDF copy, it's all smushed together. The text is kind of unreadable. I don't know if that is not a fact. It was that way on my laptop and my my tablet that I'm holding now. So I don't think it's just my PDF reader. I think it's on the door.
On paper as well.
Okay.
Seeing it too, I think it has something to do with the fact of when I tried to compress the PDF so I could give it to Paul. I think that's what created this weird issue, because otherwise the Word document, they're all the same font. So I don't understand why it did this, but yeah, I'll make sure not to do that again.
Yeah, maybe just try a different one next time, then hopefully it won't do that.
Yeah, because the compressed file is fine. So I think it's just a compression did it.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, follow up to that before I move on to member Bechtel. What got uploaded to NIMCRIS? Is it the compressed PDF? Is it a non-compressed PDF? What?
The non-compressed PDF.
Okay, so if we look at it on NIMCRIS, we ought to be able to see it without the distortion.
Correct.
Perfect. Member Bechtel.
I don't have any comments, really.
Okay. And that leaves just me, and I've got just one. And page 43. Reviewing aerial photograph and satellite imagery. The third sentence indicates the 1951 aerial photograph shows Camino Laival intersecting the project area. And when I looked at that aerial photo, which is your figure 5.9. Yes, we can see it's intersecting the project area, but I think more importantly, what we can see on that figure is that the project area is intersecting multiple alignments of the Santa Fe Trail as recorded by Patel and Tigas, and then subsequently recorded in smaller subsets by various archaeologists over the last 19 years. Due to happenstance of where their projects were, those alignments did not get recorded all the way down to your project area, but they are continuous on the aerial photos, all the aerial photos that I can find. And many of them are still visible now. It's a mess. the way things sometimes get recorded, because I know there are two segments of the Santa Fe Trail recorded only 600 feet away that clearly continue right down and across your project area. All that being said, I completely understand why you may not have seen any indication whatsoever of those trail alignments in your project area, because right there along Camino Lejo, there's been a boatload of other disturbances that could have easily erased all of that. But it would still be nice to talk about the alignments and then make positive statements about no indications of alignments A through F, however many there are, were found in the project area, while still acknowledging that the trail crosses Camino Lejo in multiple places. And bless you for finding the little trailside site that you're relating to the Santa Fe Trail. That's the level of detail that often gets glossed over. Somebody walks out there and says, by golly, that's the Santa Fe Trail, and their brain shuts off. And you actually identified the artifacts. So thank you. And that is all.
We have corrections, remember, in specific things.
Not per se.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I move that we approve. Approve case 8025. Jim requests approval for archaeological monitoring report on Camino Lejo.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on. The case number 2024-7867. OAS agent for Chaparral Cable Company Incorporated requests approval of an archaeological monitoring report for the installation of 10,924 feet of subsurface fiber optic lines from the Don Gaspar Bridge south to the John F. Sims Building in the historic downtown and suburban archaeological review districts. Thank you for the staff report, Paul. Anything to add?
No, Chair.
Thank you. Dr. Taylor Montoya is here. No need to be sworn in.
Okay. You swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
John Taylor Montoya, 7 Old Coach D Road, Santa Fe, New Mexico, 87507.
Thank you.
John, I know you're trying to clean up hanging cats over there. This being one of them.
Yes.
Thank you for the effort.
Well,
Anything to add?
it's Chairman Eck, members of the committee and staff. Yeah, thank you for this opportunity and thank you for reviewing these reports. This are indeed, both of our cases today are what we call legacy reports as part of our backlog. Of course, these were done before I was on board. But we were presenting them in a good faith effort to get the committee, the reports that they are due. I stand for questions. The first one here is reports of monitoring for over 10,000 feet of fiber optic work in Santa Fe. Several features were discovered during the monitoring effort. 4 sites, 3 new sites, newly discovered sites were documented, as well as 1 previously discovered site during the work. Oh, one quick correction that I caught on our end. So Karen Wedding is listed as the lead author. That's not necessarily correct according to the actual text in the document. It says that Jessica Bannon was the actual lead author on this. So we will correct that if need be. So
We'll double check with Karen and make sure that that is actually.
Yeah, I
correct
think
or not.
both individuals' respective curriculum vitae would appreciate the clarification so that nobody gets misconstrued down the way.
Indeed.
All right. Member Beck.
That was fascinating. I wished for, photographs of the two Don Gaspar bridges. And there's one that's under construction. But it would have been nice to see the stone one that was referred to, the abutments that were discovered. And kept, I guess, when they built the new bridge. I think it's kind of sad.
Member Pierce.
Yeah, a few things. Starting on. Well, I don't know if I have a page number for you, but it's the NIA form, the beginning. And it is page 2 of 10 of that form. The table of link sites. You forgot to link the previously recorded site, LA 146402. You talk about it everywhere else, but you didn't actually link it in NIMCRIS to this project, which is why it doesn't appear in that table. You noted. Next on, this is on your administrative summary. Again, I don't have page numbers. Okay, it is all one paragraph, but let's see, I think it's the third to last sentence. There's a part that reads, at project area sites LA 146402, LA 185822, and well, it lists the sites. After saying that there were 73 vaults and 63 potholes, it makes it sound like the potholes were at the site as opposed to at your undertaking. Meaning you didn't dig 63 potholes in those 4 sites, you dug them, well, you didn't dig them. Somebody dug them somewhere along that alignment, not necessarily in the sites, which is the way it reads right now.
Yeah, I think the implication, of course, is that it was at the work site as a whole, but
Right.
I can see what you're saying there, yeah.
Yeah, just maybe I had to read it twice, didn't quite get that, but yeah, my first impression was that why would they be digging a bunch of potholes in a site? Right? I mean, of course, you know better.
We would hope so.
Yeah, I mean, certainly not 63 of them, so. The next thing I had. Oh, this is actually. I believe I do have a page number here, page 3, your introduction. It's your figure 1.2. And this is nitpicking, but just in your legend, it talks about a possible new conduit. Given that this is 2015, I don't think it's possible anymore. It either happened or it didn't. So it'd be nice to at least clear up that legend.
Got it.
And then the other thing I had, this is your table 4.1, which I believe is on page 30 of the report. I think that's your page number. It's a whole table of sites within 500 meters of the project area. You've got UTM plastered all over it, which is not in keeping with OAS's typical standard operating procedure of putting all this information in an appendix at the back. So it's just unusual. Normal people don't put the coordinates for the nearby sites. They just say that there are these sites within 500 meters. It's not wrong, but it does make it a whole lot harder to adapt if anybody ever wants to request this record. Having it in the appendix at the back is much simpler because you just remove the whole appendix. So just as a housekeeping thing, we better not to have that sensitive info right there in a table in what would potentially be the public part of this report. And then the other thing I have, I know that I'm complaining to one person who's probably more upset about it than I am, but, you know, it's late at night and here we are reviewing a project that was done in 2015. You know, and moreover, if it wasn't up to par, what are we really gonna do about it now? Right, so timeliness does matter. I know you know that, and it's part of your new mission, right? But this is a perfect example of why, you know, things coming to us 10 years later are not so great, because what do we do now? Well, so if there was a problem, and I didn't see any, but if there was, how would we recover from it? Would we tell them to go back and bear the expense of rewriting a report at this point? That doesn't make a lot of sense either, so. Timeliness matters. I know you know that, but I'm just putting it out there on the record. Right?
Yep, I concur with that, yeah.
Number one.
Following, member Pierce's comments about, timeframes and everything, because at first when I was reading it, I was like, that happened over 10 years ago and blah, 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 because it was recent. So I gave up on that part because it was so wasted time. But what I did notice is there are no site maps at all, including site location maps for the LA forms, and there's no, site locations in NIMCRIS, and that does need to be there.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll check in on that. I was under, my understanding was that had been corrected before we submitted, but I'll review that. We'll make sure that gets done.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay.
I guess with regard to what the other members have said about timeliness, I noticed that Chaparral hasn't been able to, or had not at the time of this report, submitted as built, or they seem to be somewhat lax in communication. And because of that time lag, you know, that's not possible really to go back to get an as-built pathway. So I don't know, you know, whether that's just something that Chaparral have done in the past, and maybe they're not a contractor anymore in town, or I don't know, I haven't seen them for a while, so I don't really know. But that seemed to be, you know, it looks like OAS tried to do something, but Chaparral was not going.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's one of the questions I can't answer. So
Yeah.
I apologize for that, but duly noted.
Okay. Anybody need a second shot? Then I'll dive in some minor little things. On pages 5, 6, and 7, your figures 1.4, 1.5, and 1.6 have had an unfortunate invasion by a feral hog, because the legend says that there's a new horizontal bore route, and it's spelled like the porcine.
Yes.
That happens again on pages 10, 11, and 12, the respective figures that are on there. For some reason in between, they're correct. Then we get to page 12, your last segment 6 overview map takes pains to show that it's overview north. There is a missing overview south. So there needs to be another figure to show the rest of the alignment. And that's important because elsewhere that I noticed, it's page 53, it refers to trench number 6.32, and it's in that segment, but it's not illustrated. And I think there's another reference to that same thing on page 55. It's just the end of that segment, and there was nothing else found there. There's only the one trench there, but the figure needs to be there. Page number 123. Peevish, I know, but eligibility recommendations, not determinations. It's the realm of HPE and this committee. And folks already pointed out that there were no site maps, and that is the last thing I had to say. I'm done.
Quotation?
We've gone through the.
All right. So I think that in this case, I'm gonna make a motion to conditionally approve this report, with the request that the city be provided with, site maps, right? And nothing else. So that we can recreate these sites appropriately in interest. Oh, and, if it has already been uploaded in Impress, we want to replace that or send us a fresh copy and we'll do it.
Okay.
Doesn't get to do any good to give the city if they're just checking a box and saying that, yes, they did it, and then that doesn't get to us. Because
Right, yeah,
ultimately, we're the ones who put the boundary up on the map.
of course, yeah, we'll make sure that everything's correct.
Thank you, Doug. That's a long-winded motion, but did you capture what you need?
Yes. So we have a motion
Oh, sorry, second.
and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
I the whole motion.
The motion is approved unanimously. Next case, which is 2024-8029 OAS Agent for Public Service Company in New Mexico, PNO. Request approval for an archaeological monitoring report for the installation of 945 feet of subsurface conduit lines on Rosario Boulevard, Old House Highway, and Morales Drive in the historic downtown and suburban archaeological review districts. Thank you for the staff report, Paul. Anything to add there?
No, Chair.
Thank you. Dr. Taylor Montoya, you're still sworn in. What do you need to tell us about this?
Thank you, Chair-elect, members of the committee, staff. This is another monitoring report, and in this case, it is a negative report. No sites were discovered, and no previous sites were encountered. There were several historic age artifacts that were uncovered and analyzed as part of the study. But they was not considered to be part of a site.
Well, great.
Questions?
No trees.
Part of the, introduction, during the Pueblo revolt, it seems like the siege of the palace of the governors lasted 10 years. It says it stopped on August 21st, 1690. I think that was 1680. Is that right?
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I would have thought they would have given up a long time before.
And be a very good tracking.
Yeah. For almost anybody, except, Greeks and Trojans.
And if they'd left in 1690, it would be able to see it, right?
Yeah.
According historically, because nobody came back until 92.
Good one,
The other, part that I had a problem with was there was a discussion of the King's map of 1912, but a lot of times 1924 was mentioned. And I was just confused by why 1924 was being mentioned so often when it was supposed to be about the King's map. So maybe it's just because I skimmed it too fast or whatever, but. And I wish I could give you page numbers, but I didn't write them down in my notes.
I think that starts on page 27.
I mean, maybe it's mentioning something specific about 1924, but and in comparison to being on the King's map. But I just see it strikes right off. By 1924, Rosario Boulevard had been constructed, but we're talking about 1912.
They updated the King's Map to 1924 at some point.
I don't know about that map.
Mhm.
I know about 1912.
I know
It's
there
my
was
thing.
one.
I
It
just-
is a 1924 King's Map.
Okay, so
But-
might be a loose reference to the update when the thing that was actually cited was the 1912 version.
Yeah.
And it's the 1912 that's reproduced here, right? No, yeah, okay. Yeah, it does seem strange that you say it just appeared on the 1924 map, but we don't see a 1924 map. Maybe that's the earlier one where it could not be, so it was not found.
Yeah, I would have ventured to guess that that's what happened, is that they're referring to the 1924, but, including the 1912 instead.
And most of the time, I know from construction standpoint, we have to refer to the 1912 one. That's it.
Okay, number one.
Well, when I can't find anything constructive to say, I always try to find at least one little typographical error. I do have one, so I really did read this thing. And this is on page 18. It is about the sixth line from the bottom of the second column. We're talking about settlement along the north bank of the Santa Fe Rib. You're missing the R in river. That was all I could find. I really had to look for that. So, well done.
Oh, there it is, okay.
Yeah.
Santa Fe Rive.
Santa Fe Rive. That's the French term for it.
Sure.
The abbreviated.
Thank you for catching that. We'll make sure.
That's all I have.
I don't have a darn thing, so we can proclamation.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve case 29. DNN's request for morphological monitoring report on Rosario Boulevard. As submitted.
Second.
We've been seconded. Everyone in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Londoy. Hey, Londoy, excuse me, I keep abbreviating now. Otherwise. So, next on this agenda is administrative matters and communications. Are there?
Yes, Chair F, I'd like to discuss the awards to see if any of you have any nominations for me.
I do not at this time. Do we have a deadline?
Yes,
Was it now?
It was.
Yeah.
it is now.
Sorry.
If you could possibly get me something within the next week, I have. Let's go April 9th would be the final. Because our next hearing, I will have to have you guys vote on it.
Gotcha.
So,
So about the same time that applicants have to have their package in, we need to have.
mhm.
Okay.
So that way we can get you prepared a presentation for vote on the next hearing.
Well, I mentioned I keep all the old ones, so I have all of the pages. I just meant to go back and look for a good one and haven't done it yet.
Yeah. So, we will be prepared to make a vote on the next hearing. And then our, the award presentation will be May 9th, May 9th. At the San Miguel Chapel, and we would like everyone to participate if you could would be greatly appreciated.
At 5 p.m.
5:30.
5:30.
And we'll get you, part of the presentation, we'll get you, an invitation for. That's all.
And for committee members to show up, I'll stand for a round at the
Yes,
place across the street.
yes.
And
Appreciate full
Burn bar.
participation.
all, but
Thank you.
thank you.
That is all from staff.
Looks administrative.
Oh, yes, will you please sign that?
Is this just an ancient history that never got signed?
Yes, sir.
I will do so.
Thank you.
Matters from the committee? Anything for me?
I had a question, about just in general, since I'm a construction person, does it, behoove me to offer suggestions in construction matters to the clients, I guess is what they would be called, or do I just let them figure out their own construction thing?
You can make any recommendations you want in this committee hearing, but, any recommendations you make to anybody outside this committee hearing are yours and yours alone, and don't represent the committee.
Right,
As
right.
long as that goes.
Yeah, no, I've
Say
understood
what you
about
will.
that. Specifically, I spoke with Gayla about, just what do I do here? And I was, we talked the last time about the hydrovac trench. And I know for a fact that's a very expensive operation. And usually it's point specific rather than, just like sweeping away a whole, I mean, they were gonna use it for a whole thing. And I think that was wrong, because of just the mess it would create. But I thought, well, they could just do testing, all they're doing is locating the utility lines. And once they've located those utility lines, and they knew it was such a wide trench, and they were gonna dig something down the middle, why not just, locate that at specific points like boreholes, and then just, get a little mini excavator and go right down the middle and lay their conduit. But I didn't, is that something that I should do, or just let them figure that out? Because they're the contractors, not me.
Somebody brings a plan to us that says we're gonna hydrovac something that wants the size of a city street.
Yeah.
Speak up, say, that's nuts.
Yeah.
Pothole till you know where the utilities are, and then take your little mini excavator and dodge everything.
Yeah.
We're done. And
Because I know
if we feel
that would
strongly enough about it, we'll make it a stipulation of approval.
Yeah, because
Thou shalt do it this way.
I also know that, just from a standpoint of cost, that was a much more cost-effective way to go about it than using a hydrovac to every 4 inches or whatever for the depth of their trench, for the length of their trench, That is something they could determine on their own, and then they present it back to us. I just didn't know whether that was something that, is my job.
So we have on many occasions suggested to contractors that they, for instance, that, don't bore here, but trench instead, because there's a high likelihood you're gonna see something, you can't really monitor a bore, and we go through the motions of it. So, yeah, we suggest changes to construction methodology fairly routinely when we think that, there's a better way to do it that would be less impactful to a known site or potential site or something.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
no, it's not outside the purview to suggest changes to methodology for the purposes of either protecting a site or having a better opportunity to see one if it's there.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, whether they're wasting money, they could do something cheaper.
Yeah, we'll see. That's the difference between, I don't know, because I've just started, what they could possibly run into, but I also know cost effectiveness, because that's, good Lord, that's important for me. So.
Well, yeah, in that particular case, the hydrovacing, it sounds really expensive, and also there's zero opportunity to monitor anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
All you're looking at is mud.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and they weren't even saving it.
Yeah.
So.
So.
For their adobes.
Yeah. Whole bunch of towns.
Since there's no local
Yeah.
producer.
Yeah. Okay.
Those are the expensive Adobes. But it become a bona fide inclusion of genuine artifacts.
There you
from
go.
Prehistoric sound.
Yeah,
Selling point.
there you go, more expensive, for many reasons.
Justified. Okay, anything else? From any of us? If not. Oh, here's your thumb drive.
Oh, I meant to bring
Oh,
that back, I
yeah.
apologize.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
They were yours.
I'll bring mine back too.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, we'll just keep filling them up.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Just
Yeah,
a suggestion,
mine, but
though, when you get them back, keep them separate from everything else, reformat them before you use them again, just in case.
Yeah.
Cause you never know what creeps in from somebody's machine.
That's right.
So I would have done it, but I habitually reformat in a different way than the city probably does. So I refrain. Thank you.
Was kind of intimidating, this huge packet of digital.
Yeah,
this time.
well, dear friend delivered this stuff
Yeah.
and she couldn't get my gate open.
that was
Apparently you
me.
hadn't seen the email. And I said, it just needs a vigorous shove. In this case, you could have just thrown the packet at the gate and it would have opened. It's a battering ram.
Well, did you get it okay and it was,
Absolutely fine.
okay, good. Cause I was worried, well, is it gonna blow?
But no, it was perfect.
Okay, good. Well, next time on that. Sure.
Last item on the agenda.
I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. We are adjourned.
You know,
Thank
the funny thing is I sold this committee to Gayla by saying, oh, it's just a meeting a month.